G'day everyone, and thank you for joining us on this Tuesday morning, beautiful Tuesday morning. We're coming at you live from Bondi Beach, Sydney, Australia. My name is 𝙈𝙮𝙮, and today I'm joined with a special guest that I've known for many years. He's CEO of Trading.com Australia, Peter McGuire. Peter, thank you for joining us this morning. How you doing?
Oh, well, thanks, mate. Lovely to see you, and thanks for the invitation. Happy New Year, and it's game on. I'm looking forward to having a chat with you. So, yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you for that, Peter. We're off and running the new year. Hope you had a great New Year's and I hope you had a great Christmas and festive season. Peter, can you tell us a little bit about your journey growing up,
Yeah,
education?
absolutely, mate. I had the good fortune. I grew up at Forestville on the northern parts of Sydney, and my mum and dad, they were involved in the milk industry. So they were deliverers of milk. And they bought a run together in '57, and there was no population there, and encompassed Forestville, French's Forest, Killarney Heights, and Belrose, four suburbs. And then over a window of time of about 9 or 10 years, the population absolutely exploded. And those four suburbs became highly densely populated. And so there was a lot of milk to deliver. And they bought one milk run and sold it into seven over that passage of time up until 1972. And that was I think that was their stepping stone to entrepreneurship and trying to capture the old story, work hard and see what falls out of it. And then they changed from milk to beer. And I moved from Forestville to Botany, and mum and dad bought a pub, and that was showtime. 7 days a week. Beer is a different product to milk, let me tell you, mate, Ed.
What a journey. What a story. And Peter, I know you've been doing so many things with your line of work. How did you get into the line of work that you're doing now?
Well, and I've always been interested. Dad was a stock trader, and he I'll think of his name while we're talking. Tony was his Christian name. He was a stockbroker and used to come over to home. And in those days, stockbrokers were very wealthy because they controlled the deal flow, where it's now, press and play in the sense of platform-based trading. So I've always been interested in financial markets and their intricacies and how they wrap themselves around not only domestic but international economics. So I had the good fortune of working with a firm 4 decades ago, and a relationship I was having with a lady. She put me in touch with some people, and it's all about networks, and they offered me something and I took it, and I probably grabbed it with both hands and haven't let go of it since. So that was the journey, and I've enjoyed every second of the industry.
Amazing, Peter. And you're also the CEO of AustraliaTrading.com. Can you tell us a little bit about what that involves and more?
Yeah, absolutely. Our parent is XM.com, and we spun off Trading.com for XM.com is global. And for 4 jurisdictions, we spun off another brand called Trading.com, and that's for the US, Europe, UK, and Australia. I look after Australia, and then I also do TV work internationally with media most days, sometimes a number of times a day. And that is a platform-based financial services provider licensed under ASIC, and that provides margin FX, provides currencies, commodities, and stocks to trade on international markets. And as we know, that market is 24/5. And it's the market never sleeps, as Gordon Gekko used to say. So that's what I do, and I love it immensely. And I've got no thoughts as far as slowing down. I actually want to speed things up.
Wow, that's a great motto when you love what you're doing. Pete, you've been around the world and you've been a guest speaker in many countries, including New York. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, no way. I had Amanda Drury. Amanda Drury was a lead anchor at CNBC out of Singapore. And then she came back, and I used to speak in Singapore quite often because I'd be up there for business on CNBC, Bloomberg, BBC, and so on. And Mandy said she came back to Australia and said, "Oh, Pete, I've gone to New York. If you're ever in New York, would you like to come over?" And then she said, and the markets were very hot. Oil was at 147 a barrel, and it was just and then within, unbelievably, 3.5 months, oil crashed to the low 30s. So it washed out about $110, and the commodity cycle was absolutely on fire. So Mandy said, "Would you like to come over?" And I got the kids. My two were, what were they? About 12 and 13 at the time, or 11 and 12. And we visited New York, and we were there for about 8 days. And I spoke on the New York Stock Exchange live on CNBC, which was a wonderful experience. And the kids were there with me. And so all of that is how I used to travel. I'd always take the kids with me, and that gave them, I think, an insight to business. And also go, I remember Donald Trump used to say his dear father, Fred Trump, would take him to building sites. And he would say, "Well, we own that, or we own that, and we want to own that one." And that was as a young boy, and he was visionary in that perspective. So I think you've got to be able to show your kids what the world is, and they lose any form of trepidation as far as what they're capable of. So it was very much an education for my kids, as well as myself, and the opportunity to speak on CNBC.
And what a great stimulant for them as kids growing up to see dad doing all this stuff.
Yeah, exactly right. I took a day off and I went back to the Wharton School. That's the University of Pennsylvania, Ivy League. I'm an alumni from there. And there was a program that I wanted, but there was a guest lecturer, but he's more than that. He's a visionary, a forward-thinking visionary, Jeremy Rifkin. And he had a class, and I had the opportunity to go there, and I spent a night. They put me up in accommodation in the executive education campus, and the kids had their own room and I had one room, and then I went to the class the next morning, and it was just like, getting filled up full of rocket fuel. So wonderful author. If anyone wants to follow, someone that's quite, as I said, visionary, Jeremy Rifkin is the man. And yeah, I think you'd learn a lot from thermodynamics to hydrogen economy to all the things that are unpacking right now from a geopolitical standpoint.
Cool. For anybody watching this who might not already know, Peter, you're also 7th Dan IKO Goju-Ryu Karate black belt. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got into that, how old you were, and how long you've been involved in learning karate? Because you're a 7th Dan black belt. Well, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, they don't give them away, they tell me.
They
I've
don't.
been in this style since '78. I've been under the same sensei since, and a wonderful man. And at botany, I realised I'd like to get some skill sets as far as it was a rough and tumble world. And growing up, I think they probably thought I was privileged. I didn't think I was privileged being in a pub, or just alcohol fueled, and drugs had taken over the suburb in a lot of ways. And that was very much a part of Sydney, that heroin culture and standover and all that sort of stuff. And you just wanted to be able to protect yourself. And in 13, I never forgot it. It was my sister's birthday, but it was also the opening of the Sydney Opera House, 20th of October, 1970. And I went in for a class down in Chinatown, and there was about 50 people made at, it was the Bruce Lee boom, and 50 people, from men to kids, in a room that probably should have had 15 people. So you couldn't move. There was nowhere to do stances, or I mean, to watch you do footwork, you would have absolutely, you would have imploded, because there was nowhere to move to do your footwork. You were standing over people. So that was my introduction. Bruce Lee certainly was the inertia that created much interest from a global standpoint, because he swept the world with kung fu and with fighting styles. And as we know, he was a dominant force in the US in the 60s as far as a movie actor, and then in Hong Kong in the late 60s, early 70s, before a tragic death, which is still one in mystery. So I did that, and on and off for about 4 or 5 years. And then I joined a particular dojo. We moved to Coogee in 77. I joined a dojo in 78, and I haven't left it. And I teach on Saturday mornings once a week at Chippendale, on top of Chuck Fay's dojo, which is a phenomenal 450 square metre facility on top of Dulux Paints on Cleveland Street, mate. So yeah, that's what we do. We've got strong linkage back to Japan, to Tokyo, and yes, it's I feel very blessed to do it, because it's wonderful for mindset, body, and spirit.
I was actually going to mention Chuck Fay, because I used to run a studio. I used to manage a fitness studio and a boxing studio in Sussex Street.
Yep.
around Chinatown, and he used to have his own little studio up at in Sussex Street as well, back in the day. But how is Chuck?
He's very well. I mean, he had a hip replacement. Dr. Mike, as you know, he's a musculoskeletal physician. He helped him on that. And he was the ex-Wallaby sports doctor, so he's seen plenty of hip injuries. He's one of our students, Dr. Mike Jamison. He's a black belt, and he assisted Chuck Fahey from a health perspective, who to talk to. And I think he's certainly in much better condition due to a hip replacement than he was prior to that. But he's in good health. Yeah, I'll send you regards.
Oh, please do. It's great to know because he's getting on there. He must be what, like close to 80?
But no, close to 70.
Oh, sorry.
You're nearly there, but he was a force to be reckoned with. He was from Malaysia and he was a champion over there, and he came over to Australia and brought over here by Richard Bradford, and he Budokan, and he really, his linkages back to Okinawa with his father and his grandfather and through Hong Kong, deep linkages into martial arts, of course, Thai boxing, kickboxing, and kung fu. It's and wonderful exponent of swords and bow. I mean, really, he was world class. He's up there with the very best, and everyone knows him. And true icon.
He's very well respected. Guys like him, guys like I think it was Rick Spain, and some of those guys, really, really well known for their involvement in the sport. But Pete, you've lived in the eastern suburbs for many years now, and over the years, I'm sure you've seen some amazing change. What is something that you feel is most evident, especially as a mentor, as a teacher, and the status that you hold, and as a father? What do you think that is one of the most evidential things with the youth today growing up in the eastern suburbs?
What they need is, it's a different mindset to certainly growing up in the 70s. And I think that there was a lot of tough love. There was resilience, and there was get on and get into your day. And it was high vibration. It was energy specific. It was testosterone charged. And I think a wellness was very much across the substance of the matter. People worked hard, ate well, slept well, and they had, I think, minimal distraction. As long as they weren't, cursed by drugs or alcohol, they were very, very centered people. And there weren't many distractions, and it was, I think, a highly productive time. And I'm not saying it's not highly productive now, but it's very important for young ones to build resilience and that's easier said than done. That requires getting out of bed, making your bed, keeping your room tidy, and just the little things in life that give you the 11 herbs and spices, as Kentucky Fried Chicken Colonel Sanders used to say. It's not 7 or it's not 9, it's 11 herbs and spices, and that's what makes life. And you've got to have manners, you've got to have commitment to yourself, enthusiasm, energy, and you get that by the natural things in life, mate. Sunshine, human connection, nutrition, hydration, sleep, movement. Movement is very important. And you know as well as I do, you got to either hit the pads, hit the bag, or do something. Get out there and swim a beach. Get out there and run some hills. I took a bit of a legend. No, that's the wrong word. Certainly a very Shihan Trevor Tocker, well known in the karate, certainly around Bondi. And I took a class of theirs. I did a master class on kata bunkai. And this is going back about 5 years or 6 years ago. And at the end of the class, and we did a bit of training and all that sort of stuff. And then he said, right, go out. This is what I want you to do today. Run the hills. That simple part of, walking up a hill and swinging your arms and getting blood flow and getting oxygen into your body, that's the way to start. And it's all about getting movement into your body and getting your body taking on board oxygen and sleeping well, mate. Sleep is imperative. So if I can give the kids anything, try and get their life in order with the little things first. Good nutrition, hydration, and make sure that you're learning something, not just looking at Facebook all day or social media. I think that the young people have got so much potential, and I only want to see them harness that and make themselves champions in their own right of their own lifetime.
And it's so true. Every kid is so unique in their own way. It's just the ability to harness that energy, harness that focus, and bring what's great in that individual out of them. Pete, yeah, ever since I've known you've always been passionate, driven, disciplined. You've always been doing something. Can you tell us what inspires you when you get up each morning?
I run abundance. So what I mean by that is I turn towards abundance. I don't turn towards avoidance. By turning towards abundance, I believe I'm abundant in energy, abundant in enthusiasm, abundant in love, and abundant in trying to be the best version of me. And that requires a whole framework to support that living, breathing, dynamic organism, and that's called life. So I look at each day as a blessing. I've always done that. I don't know why. But I've had people say it from 10 years of age, you're enthusiastic, or and they still say it today. I train with much vigor. I don't see people my age training on the weights. I just don't see them. I'm talking about training. I'm not talking about, like going to a golf and doing a couple of little bits and pieces. I'm talking about hard training. And hard training gives you a sense of purpose. And that sense of purpose it gives you mitochondrial health, it gives you energy, and it's like, I don't know, I just feel supercharged. I've got passion, high vibration, positive mindset, and it's high voltage rock and roll. And that's the way I want to go out. I'm not interested in, low energy, mate. It doesn't turn me on. That's not the way I operate. I try and get more done in an hour than, I don't know whether people do it in 10 hours, but I work very dynamically for a small window of time, and I achieve much. And that's the way I like to live.
Now, I resonate with a lot of what you were saying. Now, the interesting thing is all human beings are radiating with different frequencies at any given time. And there's recent studies that I've done about your cortisol peaks and how it gives you certain windows of opportunities throughout the day. And it's usually the first peak of cortisol in the morning that allows you to be so much effective or most effective. And that is the window where I try and do most of my work throughout the day. Maybe I have a little rest in the mid-afternoon. And then later in the afternoon, I predominantly do as much work as possible in that 90-minute to 2-hour frame. But Pete, like I said, as long as I've known you, you've been involved in so many different things. You've been involved in karate, the work that you do, and different organizations. And you're well known all over the country. You're well known within the eastern suburbs community. Tell me, Pete, how would you like to be remembered when your song is sung and you
Well,
do a dash? How would Pete McGuire like to be remembered?
I think from a mindset perspective, I like geopolitics, and I like the world, and I like to get an idea of how it's all playing. So from a scholarly perspective, I'd like to be considered that he was knowledgeable about geopolitics and all of the substructures that feed into that. And that's a very, I don't know whether it's comprehensive, but it's diverse, and it really encapsulates the world. So the lens I look through is global. From a health perspective, hopefully I've got a few more decades ahead of me yet, and same for you.
Yeah.
I want good health, and I don't want to be in a chair at 70. And I've spent a lot of time in aged care in the last 6 years with 3 family members, and I've lost them all in the last couple of years. And there was only 4 of us in the sense of a sibling and mum and dad. So 2 of them passed in the last 6 months. So I'm very conscious as far as the duration of life. So I'm here to strap myself in, launch. I certainly wouldn't be remembered that he failed to launch. And that's what I don't want young people to do, is fail to launch. I want launch. I want rocket ship. So I want to be known or remembered that at least he launched. At least he had energy, he had passion, truthful. I think truth is one of the key fabrics of society that you need to either be abundant of or you avoid. And if you avoid truth, then you aren't authentic. So I want to think about authenticity. I want to think about high vibration and resilience. I want to think about how one is purpose built for themselves. A karateka, in the sense he's trained all his life. I'm not stopping training. I'm a lifelong student. So that possibly is it. Keep moving, keep eating well, sleep well, and don't run nervous energy. Don't look at, you mentioned cortisol. Don't let that be that. It's all right to run cortisol, which is great and it gives you the impetus to go and do something, but you don't want that to be running, as you know, 24 hours a day on peak performance and you're just stressed out of your mind. That is not productivity. That is an early grave, and they're the hallmarks of what will give you a very poor quality of life, and you'll be a nightmare to be with.
It won't take long for you to burn out like I did earlier in life. But recently I did a workshop in New Zealand. It was for a group of women rugby athletes, rugby teams, and
Yep.
it was for women's mental health. And after the retreat, I interviewed every single one of them where they gave me some remarks and positive feedback, or any feedback for that matter. And one particular lady stood out. She stood up and she said, prior to this retreat, I wanted to be remembered as somebody who was just a good person who did the right thing by others. But after doing this retreat, I realized that whatever mileage I've got left in me, that I just want to do a little bit more. And I think a little bit of that is in all of us. We're all trying to give the best of ourselves, whether it be to our families, to others around us, because obviously the better we step up, it has a ripple effect for others around us. But
Yep.
Pete, it's been so great hanging out with you and having this quick chat with you. I look forward to catching up in person where we can go for a cup of coffee and chat some more. But for everybody watching us today, we look forward to seeing you next week where I'll be joined with a different guest. Same time, same place. Have an amazing week from Peter and I here in Bondi Beach, Sydney, Australia. Take care and have an amazing week.
Thanks, mate.